years ago, I remember watching, I've seen too many documentaries. Journalists have gone to refugee camps, and you've seen them with the tents going for miles and miles and miles, and they report that the children are so happy they're playing football or whatever in between the camps. They never go there at night and hear the the screams of horror, the kids reacting to nightmares, the bedwetting, all the other things that go on. And during the day, these kids are often unable to concentrate in school, if there is school. And so success then is that they get on top of being able to sit in the classroom. That something reminds them about whatever it was that had upset them. Okay, they can say, "Oh God, yes, I'll think about that later." It gives them back control over the reactions, and then they don't. Um, yes, they can benefit from the teaching, benefit from playing together, benefit all sorts of ways, and that's.
And hopefully get a good night's sleep.
And they will. I mean, as we all know, if you get a good night's sleep is a great thing. I mean, one of the findings, and it's well documented, but it's at least 20 years ago since the fundamental work was done, and some of it was done in the Monza here. You can teach people to control or change their nightmares. And the way you do that is you get them to describe the nightmare all the way through, horrible it may be, and then you get them to think of a nice ending. So then you get them to practice it during the daytime, thinking it through but ending it nicely. And the more they do that, when it comes, as it were, in the middle of the night, when you're very vulnerable, then they just segue into the nice ending, and
that's it.
that's it.
That's remarkable.
Well, I mean, it's very simple, but it is, yeah. Because I mean, I listen to kids over the years, and they'll tell me these horrible dreams they've got, and so I will say to them, "Well, whose dream is it?" And they look at me as if I'm crazy. That I'm used to that. Kids do that the whole time, and I said, "No, no, whose dream is it?" They'll say, "Well, my dream." I said, "Yeah, it's your dream, so you can decide what it does. It doesn't have to decide. You can take it for, and give them a bit of control back." No, I think that it is. It's not true that for most kids things are worse today than before. They are different. Let's take an easier one to deal with, perhaps. I mentioned I'm a war baby. In the war, and until about 1951, there was genuine austerity. The country didn't have the money, it didn't have the goods, but above all, it didn't, well, not above all, but what they did was to share things out fairly so that you probably heard of or may have seen in the War Museum the coupon books that you get coupons for everything from butter to milk to, so on. And people's diet was an awful lot better. And there was far less by way of dietary illnesses, and I'm looking at me now, but I mean of obesity and so on. But nowadays, I think many people would argue, oh, there's so much more choice. That's not necessarily a good thing. Um, the, the, the young people, in a way, are at the mercy of so much by way of commercialization and um, wanting more and getting more. And so, yes, that's an aspect of modern life that I don't like. But it's not to say that they're not, I've forgotten the wording that you used at the beginning, but that they, you have to help me, that
I asked what the biggest challenge.
biggest challenges.
facing
Yeah.
young people?
Well, I mean, I think that at the moment in England, and as a Scot, I mean in England, I think the downgrading by the government of education is a big one. I know they would say that they are trying to raise standards and so on, but they succeed in doing the opposite by putting in barriers to young people, teenagers, and so on, getting onto higher education. They would claim there are now more places and so on. But if the kids have got to pay, and for a university course, I think it's around about 9,000 a year each, that's crazy to be building up debts like that. I mean, I'm of the generation, we were very, looking back on it, very fortunate. We not only had our tuition paid, we had living grants. And people have gone on and worked hard and given back. But now, certainly as I can see, in a lot of higher education places, the balance, the relationship between teachers and students has been turned on its head. We don't have students anymore. We've got customers. And customers behave very differently from students. They demand, and they demand all sorts of things that I don't think they need, frankly. That sounds terribly awful, but really, you don't learn by having everything specified in the way they do these days. You don't get higher quality. What you do is you nurture people to be inquisitive, to want to go and find out, and so on. And that's, I think, is being beaten out of them. Kids are curious in the original sense of that. They want to find out. We can help them to do it. Make it easy for them. Give them, yes, okay, books, yes, but access to knowledge and so on. That they want to follow it for its own sake. And but learning or remembering that the skills that these young people will need by the time they're into early adulthood may not be around at the moment. I mean, my professor of psychology back in Aberdeen, a guy called Rex Knight, said some very interesting things. And one was that then in 1960, 50% of the jobs that people had not existed in 1900. The advent of electricity changed a hell of a lot. And he predicted that the rate of change was going up, it was accelerating, and that most of us graduating would, in a few years, be doing things that were entirely different. And he was right. And the same thing for society as a whole. So there's a need, yes, to help the kids follow through with their inquiries, but to give them skills that are, as they say these days, transferable, that they can learn to change, to do things. Because that's one part. And the other part is to think about how to use leisure. Because whether or not we get an age of robots coming in, people will have more time to do other than earn a living. And what are they going to do with it? That's I can't answer it, but that's